Oh boy, Nintendo. They did a thing. All right, so there is many conversations going on right now about the very divisive Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, which was just unveiled recently to thunderous applause. A lot of people are really excited. Unfortunately, I'm one of those people who's more in the crowd of, oh shit, $80, $90 games. Oh boy. I'm going to be the first to admit that I am not super educated on the subject. I have not even watched the full Nintendo Direct. I'm more interested in the conversation that's been going around surrounding Nintendo's business practices of late, particularly surrounding that of the Nintendo Switch 2. Because this is a subject that I've been pondering for a while. The subject of where the gaming industry is today and how we, the consumers, are kind of getting through all of it. I would like to state that I have always been a Nintendo fanboy. I did not grow up with PlayStation or Xbox, so I've always been a loyal Nintendo fan. I had a Wii, I had a Wii U, I got a Switch, and I'm not getting a Switch 2. Nope. But why am I not getting a Switch 2? Let me get into that. Being a Nintendo loyal fan, I bought the Nintendo Switch. It was fall 2017. I got it bundled with Super Mario Odyssey. And I gotta say that, the Nintendo Switch is a good console, and I'm glad that people enjoy it, and I see the appeal behind it. But when I had a Wii U, I got to experience Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, and Mario 3D World, and Mario Kart 8. And I can confidently say that despite its problems, I did have a good experience with the Wii U for what it was. And then unfortunately, for my experience being a Switch owner, it's mainly been, hey, remember that game that you already bought for Wii U? Well, guess what? We're adding a couple little things to it, and we're going to sell it to you again for full price. Also, you have to pay for online. I just remember, one of the, earlier games that came out for Nintendo Switch was Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And I remember just thinking to myself when it came out, I was like, man, really? I remember I was so excited to get a Wii U because I wanted to experience the new Mario Kart. And now we have the new Mario Kart for Nintendo Switch is just the one that I already played with some more content added to it. Pretty disappointing. And it's full price. And over the years, I've just one by one watched Nintendo put all of the games that I already bought for their last console on the market for full price. And this time, there's even less fun to the user experience. I'm going to be honest, I think that the Nintendo Switch's user interface is so disgustingly awful and dull looking compared to the Wii and Wii U. It's so cold and sterile feeling compared to the Wii and Wii U. It looks bad. And on top of that, I'm not even enticed by their library of old games. So to soften the blow of having a paid online service, Nintendo started providing access to a library of NES games, Super Nintendo games, and I think they're on N64 now. As you can see, I'm kind of out of the loop. But I do remember that these libraries of games are good, even though they're missing some major titles, and they absolutely just drip feed new titles at a very slow and sparse rate. And it seems weirdly clumsy to me the way they release new games into their libraries. Not to mention that growing up with the Wii, when I wanted to play a retro title, I would just get it from the Wii Shop channel. I remember the Nintendo Wii was such a big deal for me, not just because of the games that were coming out at the time, but I was able to experience a lot of Super Nintendo games and NES games and N64 games for the first time, and I could just buy it and own it, and it was great. And I just constantly hate being reminded nowadays about how instead of buying things, we just pay forever. And whether it is for paying to use features that are built into the console that you already bought for full price, or having games, a limited selection of old games, by the way, being locked behind a monthly subscription, sooner or later it just completely adds up, and it's too much for me. It's not like I'm not already paying for subscriptions for other things that I may or may not even want. Nowadays, whenever I get anything, the second I see that there's no option to buy a perpetual license, whether it be for some kind of a program, or even if I'm just trying to buy a product, and I realize that you have to keep paying a month in order to use the product to its fullest extent, it's just, I'm immediately turned off. I don't like spending money on subscription services, but there are some things that you just can't really get around, and I would like to reserve a budget for those things that I can't really get around. And for me, video games are not essential. I did have fun with the Nintendo Switch while I did. Definitely not as much fun as with the Wii U or with the Wii. Smash Bros. Ultimate alone, I think, made it worth for me buying a Switch, as well as playing Doom and Doom Eternal for the first time, but even then. Those games, they look so bad on the Nintendo Switch. I have already not been on super good terms with Nintendo for a bit. A lot of things they've been doing for the past few years have been leaving a bad taste in my mouth. They appear to be doing very well financially. They have many extensions of their brand IPs going about right now. They have theme parks opening up the wazoo. They have the movie deals with Universal and Illumination, which are just going to print money. They're doing really well, and I really do feel let down as a consumer, as someone who's stuck with Nintendo for my whole life, to see their prices being jacked up through the roof right now. And like mentioned before, I already just haven't been on good terms with them. I was not happy to see them re-release Donkey Kong Country Returns at full price, actually even more expensive than when the game first came out, and the port isn't even that good from what research I've done. I want to reiterate that I am not super educated on every meticulous thing that's going on with Nintendo right now. There are plenty of you guys watching that definitely know way more than me, but I really do feel like I just have to take a pass on this one. And that doesn't make me happy to say. The new Mario Kart looks like it could be a lot of fun with friends, and it looks like it could provide a lot of new experiences, and I'd love to try the new Smash Bros. When it comes out. And they're finally releasing a new Donkey Kong game after, 11 years? I remember beating Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze the week it came out, when I was like, oh my god, I must have been like 12 or 13 years old, and from that moment forward, I was just waiting for a new Donkey Kong game, and it's happening now, and I think I might just have to take a pass on it. And I am sad to know that all of these games and features that are coming out really soon are going to be just as expensive in 5 years or even more, and never go on sale. I know that first-party Nintendo games never really go on sale, and when they do, it's not really much to write home about. People are saying that Nintendo's practices are not consumer-friendly, and I may not be super educated on all the individual things that term may encompass, but I can say that for me, as a consumer, I am just tapping out with Nintendo because it's too much. And this doesn't just go for Nintendo. This just is kind of how I feel about the video game industry in general. I'm going to say it right now, I don't trust the video game industry much at all. I don't play many of the new games. Most of the time, I'm perfectly content with replaying the old classic games from my childhood. Unfortunately, it is all too often that I notice games being purposely released unfinished or lacking content that would otherwise be there, and the developers or the publisher or whoever might be involved are banking on selling you more content that 15 years ago you probably would have gotten in the game. You see, when I was growing up, buying the disc from the GameStop, rip GameStop, that was where your relationship began and ended with the company. If a game was good, you would buy it, and that was it. You take it home, you own it. It was great. And nowadays, unfortunately, it is all too common for games to purposely be released, lacking content that is already being worked on, or they sell you a game and say, trust us, if this game makes enough money, we'll finish it, then we'll give you the rest of your content. Just buy first. As a matter of fact, I actually got duped last year. One of the only recent games that I got, like a game that came out within the past few years, was South Park Snow Day. I got 100% duped getting that game. Admittedly, I had my trust and confidence earned because the previous year I had played The Stick of Truth and Fractured But Whole for the first time with my girlfriend, and playing those games, I got them on sale. I got them on sale. I played them for the first time. It took me so long to get around to playing those games. I probably have not had that much fun playing a new game for the first time in ages. I can't remember myself enjoying playing a game or an RPG for the first time that much since I played through Earthbound for the first time, which was, back in 2021. I loved the South Park RPGs so much, and I thought, well, they haven't done me wrong yet. I'm gonna get the South Park Snow Day and just, go all out. I'm sure it'll be great. And yeah, I spent $60. I did get the DLC. I pre-ordered, and I played the game for 28 minutes, and after 28 minutes of denial, I realized, yes, I had in fact been duped. Unfortunately, it was another wake-up call or a slap on the wrist. It was definitely a reminder to be more careful nowadays, and I don't even know what kind of support that game is getting anymore. The only other game that I can think about that I will gladly throw my money at over and over and over again is the new Guilty Gear. Yes, that game has a small base roster, and yes, there are a lot of DLC expansion packs, but the difference between a game like Guilty Gear and these new Nintendo games coming out for the new Nintendo Switch, just for an example, just for the topic, is that the new Guilty Gear feels like it was made by people that actually give a shit. There is a wealth of extra content in that game that exists just for the hell of it, just for the sake of existing. There's so much stuff in that game that doesn't even need to be there, that most casual players will never even notice, but it's still there. The reason I'm happy to keep throwing my money at the new season passes and buying it for multiple consoles is because it feels like it was made by people that set out to make a game, rather than a product that's just gonna milk you for everything that you're worth. And not to mention the amount of enjoyment I've got, not just from playing Guilty Gear itself, but listening to the soundtrack over and over and over. I've been listening to that soundtrack for probably about over 2 years at this point, and yeah, it still hasn't gotten old. So I'd say that alone, the amount of enjoyment I've gotten from both of those sides, from the music and the game itself and the art, I am more than happy to support the people that make that kind of content possible. But unfortunately, in Nintendo's case, it is proving to be all but too much this time around. Now, of course, it doesn't matter what I think. It's not going to affect Nintendo, and by no means am I saying to any of you, don't buy a Switch, or even buy a Switch. I'm not advocating for either way. I just know that the loudest voice that you can possibly voice to Nintendo, either in favor or not in favor for the new Nintendo Switch, is to vote with your wallet. And I don't see any reason to give my money to a company that is clearly not looking out for me. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see how other people do as well. Granted, perhaps everyone is having fight or flight right now, which I totally understand. I think we all definitely are, but it is going to be very interesting to see how things go in the long term, and if Nintendo doesn't budge on these prices, or if they do start having more generous sales down the road. But yeah, I think that it's really good that people are standing up and calling out Nintendo for their greedy business practices and voicing their concerns and trying to look out for everybody else. And it inspired me to give in my own input on not just how I feel about this new Nintendo Switch, but how I feel about video games nowadays as a whole. If you made it to the end of this video, please, thank you very much for listening to me talk, and please let me know how you feel in the comments about this whole situation. I'm genuinely curious to see where you all stand on this. And if you look in the description, you will find my new Patreon account. For those of you who don't know, I'm a professional stop-motion animator, and I post tons of art and behind the scenes on my Patreon, and I opened it up recently, so hopefully I'll see you there. And as for Nintendo consoles, I'll see you on the next one. Maybe. Hopefully. In another 10 years.